Hello everyone, and welcome to the second lecture in the series of lectures on design and analysis of algorithms. Well, the first question that you must be having in your mind is why you should study the subject at the first place. So let me give you a quick motivation by giving you a simple example. Let's say we have two decimal numbers and you want to add them. Well, it won't take you much time to come up with an answer, right? Now what if you have to do the same thing, but this time I was representing these numbers in Roman? You will quickly realize that the second problem is quite difficult when compared to the first one. Or to reframe, we can say that you knew the algorithm to add two numbers in decimal, whereas the algorithm to add two Roman numbers is not known to you. Well, an Arabian mathematician named Al-Khwarizmi came up with an algorithms to add, subtract, multiply and divide decimal numbers. It is after him the term algorithm was coined. So with this motivation, let us look at a formal definition of what an algorithm is. To define an algorithm, we say that a finite sequence of steps to accomplish a task is known as algorithm. Let's take a quick example and try to write an algorithm for adding two numbers. The first step to this algorithm might be to input two numbers, let's say A and B. And the second step to this algorithm could be to add these two numbers and save the result in some variable called C. The last and the final step of this algorithm could be to output C. Having written some finite steps, how can we make sure whether what we have written actually is an algorithm or not? So there are certain properties that every algorithm must satisfy. The first property is that of finite time, or finiteness. Well, your algorithm must always run in some finite time. As a counter example, if we make an infinite loop in an algorithm which keeps continuing running for the entire lifetime, then this algorithm does not qualify as to be an algorithm at the first place. The second property that an algorithm must satisfy is that of determinism. That is, given an input and getting an output, you must be able to track how you went from input to that output. That is, your algorithm must be traceable. And also, given a state and some input, your algorithm must go to a single finite state. In general, it is not possible to basically code any non-deterministic thing into a computer. If you want to code some non-deterministic thing into a computer, you must have to first convert it into a deterministic one. The third and a simple property that every algorithm must satisfy is that of independence. Every algorithm must be independent of programming language. Whether you write the algorithm in C or Java or Python, it must not change the algorithm in the first place. The last property that algorithm must satisfy is that it should produce some output. There is no point of having an algorithm that does anything. For example, a searching algorithm must basically search for a value. A sorting algorithm must sort the list that is given to it, and so on and so forth. So after developing some basic understanding of what an algorithm is, the second thing that we wish to do is to see how we can analyze algorithms. So here I have two algorithms that computes multiplication of two numbers A and B. The first algorithm inputs two numbers. It calculates C equals to A times B and outputs C. The second algorithm basically inputs two numbers a and b, runs a loop from 1 to a, and each time keeps adding b to the answer. That is, if you are computing 2 times 3, this algorithm basically does 3 plus 3. So which algorithm is better? So in general, we have two deciding factors to say which algorithm is better. The first one being time complexity, the second one being space complexity. So what do I mean by time complexity of an algorithm? So basically the time complexity of an algorithm is the total running time of the algorithm from starting to end, whereas the space complexity of an algorithm is the total space that is required by the algorithm apart from the input. So in general, there are two kinds of analysis that you can do for space and time complexity. They are prior analysis and posterior analysis. So as the name suggests, the prior analysis tries to say something about your algorithms beforehand, that is, without even running these algorithms. So this prior analysis, it is independent of your compiler and hardware, whereas the posterior analysis wants to say something about your algorithm after running the algorithm, that is, it is dependent on compiler and hardware. Also, the answers that you get with your prior analysis do not change from system to system, that is, they are more or less exact answers, whereas the posterior answers basically depends upon the input as well as on the system, that is, they are relative. So let's see with respect to these algorithms. So first we will talk about posterior analysis. Imagine we are running these algorithms on a system which does not support the hardware for multiplication. That is, c equals to a into b is actually done by repetitive addition. That is, this system is also doing b plus b a times as this algorithm. So according to posterior analysis, this algorithm may or may not be different with respect to the system. So basically, this posterior analysis is done for programs where doing prior analysis is quite tough and also impractical. Example, your databases. A lot of analysis in databases is basically done with posterior analysis. You have some standard data set, plus you have some standard systems, and based on these things you want to report something like query per seconds and stuff like this. But for algorithms, we generally want to do something called as prior analysis. That is, without looking at the system or the compiler, we want to say which algorithm is better, or in general, what are the time complexity and space complexity of a particular algorithm. So, in the rest of the course, the major focus will be on prior analysis of algorithms, and in the next video we will start developing some theory for this, and then we will look at lots of examples of how to compute prior time complexity as well as prior space complexities of algorithms. So here I end this video, and I will see you in the next one.